Hi everyone, I'm David, this is Minimalist Terrain, and today we're going to be looking at one of the cheapest materials you can get. It's corrugated cardboard. I've just learned a new technique for using it, so I'll show you that, and I'm going to do one of the most minimalist builds I've ever done. Shall we? First thing we're going to do is reclaim some corrugated cardboard. Now, obviously, if there is any tape on the packing, you need to be rid of that. I should probably point out that yes, you can buy sheets of corrugated cardboard, but you've got to pay for that, and this is free. Now, there's two sides to this. This has had printing on it because it was the packaging for my craft shelves, and we don't want that, we want this one. So what we're going to do is strip that top layer off that piece, and because I'm going to show you two different methods, slightly different methods, I'm going to do it on two separate sheets so you can see the difference. This is just soapy water, and I'm not going to, well, I was trying not to put it directly on to the cardboard. We're using soap because that will just go through the layers a little bit better, and we are trying to use a sponge just so that it's an even coat and it's not pooling and warping in a number of places. Now that that is wet, we'll leave that for about 20 minutes just to soak through, and then we'll start stripping it off. Right, so that is 20 minutes up. Now let us get this top layer stripped off, and you should be able to just grab a corner and kind of pull it back. Now, because we were going through that plastic area, it hasn't come off as cleanly as I would have hoped, but if you find that is the case, then you've got the option of just giving it another wipe down, and that should soften it enough to be able to get the next layer off. Right, that is lifting far better. Now, I'll show you this, and I'll do the rest off camera. You do want to basically be left with just those ridges. You want all of this flat stuff off, and the best way that I have found is to just use a fork and gently go down and break up those areas, and you're just being nice and light, and it'll come off quite easily. Pick off as much excess as you can, and then just to clean it up, you can run your fork sideways down, and that will just clean off any excess and detach that top layer. Alright, and as you can see, that is nice and uniform with not a great deal of excess on it. Just remember, when you're scraping, nice and light, because we do not actually want to depress these just yet. Okay, I'll get on with removing the top layer on these, and then I'll show you the next part. Okay, so we have two pieces of corrugated cardboard, and the first layer has been taken off, so the corrugations are now showing. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is re-wet that corrugated surface, and again, just gently using that sponge. Move that out of the way so you can see better. I'll move that one to one side and let that soak in for a little bit. That one I am going to leave as it is, because this one is going to be a more uniform kind of board, sort of like roofing slats, where you've got them sort of stacked down on each other. So I'll show you how to do those. This one is going to be more sort of rustic planks, maybe for, you know, woodland huts, or ancient wall planking, wall boards, the kind of thing where they don't have them, they're hewn straight out of the log, they're not sort of uniformly cut into, you know, square planks that we get today. It's more rustic, it's more ancient. Okay, just make sure I get it all the way down in the gaps. And on this one, now that that is wet, I am just going to press down a little bit in a few places and sort of wriggle it a bit, just to get it a bit more uneven. Break that up a little bit, because we don't want these ones to be as uniform as the other ones. Now we are going to flatten these boards into place. Now I have put another piece of cardboard down, because this is a rubber cutting mat, and this is a hot iron, and I don't want to ruin the surface on the board. I'll move that one out of the way. So the first one we are doing is the regular sort of roof tile pattern. Okay, now for that, very easy. We're going to come in from this side and we are going to smooth it all in one direction. And it does drag a little bit to start off with, but once you have got it started off, it does go very easily. And there you can see that pattern quite nicely. The rough boards, instead of coming in from the side and all going in one direction, this we're going to go straight down on top, and where we've messed about with it, that is going to become part of the sort of pattern of the boards. So down like that. Alright, and that looks far more rustic and irregular. Okay, that's good. Happy with that. Okay, once it is all flattened and it has been given the chance to dry, the next thing is to give it a paint job. Now, painting is very, very easy, and this is a test piece that I did just to give you an example of the way it can look. There are 3 sections. This one I have put no undercoat on at all. I have simply used a nice light cream and given it a bit of a dry brush to sort of pick up the edges and give it a little bit more definition. This I feel is probably good for a sort of more recently constructed building piece, okay, where all the timber is nice and new, okay, and that cream paint is contrasting fine with the slightly darker colour of the cardboard. On this one I've done a full undercoat of a grey, and then picked up the highlights with a tan colour just to get it back to looking a little bit more like wood, and then just the very highlights again with that cream. This one is kind of in between, and it's not a full undercoat, it's just sort of like a light misting of the grey. You can paint it to whatever colour you want, or whatever feels right for you. You know, in some cases you may simply want to actually paint the planks in. Entirely your call, okay? Whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever works for your building, alright? But for these particular ones, because it is quite an old building, I am going to be using this colour scheme here, and I will quickly go and get something built. So I'm just going to rough cut a polystyrene former for an outhouse. Now one thing to watch out for, yeah, that has been painted on one side. Obviously cardboard does warp a bit when it gets wet, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. It's why I'm using a former, just to give it a decent base, a solid base to adhere to. So that is the rough one, so I'm going to use that for the side walls. And then this is the top shingles. And I'll go a little bit past that because we do want some overhang. And I'm not even going to worry about a craft knife, I'm just going to use scissors for this. Okay, so that's all assembled, and yeah, where there's been gaps I have done just a wee bit of a touch up with grey. But let's have a final dry brush. And again, so this is the tan paint. It's quite thin stuff this, so I may have to do a couple of coats, but that's alright. And it's starting to set off quite nicely around the edges there. So there you are, all done. A really basic build. Polystyrene, corrugated cardboard, paint, glue. That's it. Yes, it's a very small building, but it doesn't matter. As I was building it, the technique lends itself to building really, really quickly, so scale it up for things like huts, cabins, barns, you name it, okay? Wild West stuff, rustic stuff, brilliant, if I do say so myself. You're wondering why I'm waving a pen around. I did use a little bit of a cheat just on those roofing tiles, just to define them a little bit. I used a brown fine liner just to get the lines in, and I gave a couple of them a quick wash just to make it look as if there'd been some repairs done. So that is it for another episode. If you like what you've seen, please do hit the like and subscribe button, share it if you want. Until next time, and it's probably going to be more corrugated cardboard, I'll see you around.